Friday, the 25th of October. Welcome our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world to Business Morning. I am Bosin Amafai. Let's get the show started. All in the news this morning, all about earnings coming through. This is Nigeria's earnings season like the rest of the world. Third quarter, 9 months of the year. Let's start with Airtel Africa, listed on London and Lagos stock exchanges, reporting revenue growth of 11.4% in constant currency terms in the first 6 months of this year. Let's give you some basics of those numbers. Several pages released today by this telecom giant. Airtel says its revenue was 8.4% better at $1.64 billion US. Earnings before interest, depreciation, taxes, and amortization, that's what the EBITDA stands for. That's better by 10.9%, reading $719 million US. Net debt to EBITDA is 2.3 times better than 5.1 multiples reading at the end of September 2018. The telecom company reported an operating profit of better by 8.6%. Basic earnings per share was 6.3 American cents as they reported. And Airtel Africa says an interim dividend of 3 cents per share will be paid to shareholders. The telco giant says its constant revenue growth of 11.4% was driven by double-digit growth in Nigeria and East Africa operations, but that was partially offset by slight decrease in the rest of African region. Looking through the business division's growth for Airtel, voice contributed 3.2%. In the period under review. Data business grew 37.8%, and its mobile money business is where the icing on the cake is. That's 46.5%. And sticking with the earnings streams, listed big oil marketing firms on the Nigerian stock market reporting disappointing 9 months to September 2019, due largely to higher operating expenses as well as costs related to sales and finance. Let's start with Total, two of the big oil giants reporting here in Nigeria. Total, 9 months showing a headline revenue down 2.2%, reading 221.8 billion naira for the period ended September 2019. Loss after tax was 204.8 million, and operating profit a whopping 59.7% in the water, reading 5.7 billion naira. Total Nigeria PLC reporting a finance cost that grew unprecedented 103.3%. That's 6.1 billion naira. Printing earnings per share was a negative 0.6%. Research analysts and investment analysts at United Capital yesterday cut Total Nigeria's rating from hold to sell. Flip side of that is where you find Mobile Nigeria trading as W1 PLC on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, reporting first 9 months of this year. Headline revenue 13.2% in the positive territory, but its gross profit fell 10.2%. Mobile reported operating profit that slumped 15.2% in the first 9 months of this year. Net profit, therefore, slumped 19.4%. In terms of gross margin, that's a negative 2.1%. In the industrial manufacturing sector, Guinness Nigeria reported a pickup in sales, but downturn in export sales in its first quarter 2020 ended September 2019. In case you just get it, Guinness year-end is June, so its first period financial year is Q1 2020, that is July to September this year. According to ARM Research report, which was released yesterday, Guinness lower export sales came in at 692 million naira between July and September this year. That was much lower than 2.8 billion naira reported by Guinness in the same period of last year. And this depresses Guinness revenue by 4.3% year-on-year to 26.9 billion naira. Loss after tax, this company came in at 370 million naira despite local revenue growth of 3.6% year-on-year. And FX translation loss fuels Guinness higher interest expense, doubling that to 1.3 billion naira because the Nigerian regulator, the central bank, changed the currency from NIFEX to NAFEX. That rate affected currency translation for Guinness Nigeria. This brewer reported a total debt that grew 36% year on year to 27.1 billion because of short-term loan and a 43% year-on-year rise in letters of credit. Guinness Nigeria PLC shares was placed on neutral rating at ARM Securities. Quite a lot to talk about on the show today and in the days ahead. But first, yesterday, the Nigerian Stock Exchange allowed those great individuals, young Nigerians and innovators to present their idea about bringing fintech and all of that and technology into Nigeria's space. So what was done was the inaugural edition of the NSE Xcathon initiative, which is a competition looking to boost retail participation of millennials, young people in the Nigerian market using ICT solutions. At the end of the contest, there's a winner, Requid, who goes on with a prize of 5 million naira. Take a listen.
Most of the teams were able to deliver, convince the jury. They are within their 3 minutes, and I would say it was a stiff competition. You could see what Nigerian creative youth are capable of. Very interesting. And then after the session, the jury went in to discuss. I was on the jury, and it was unanimous, at least. Everybody brought in their scores, and the top three were the top three across all the judges, so it was very clear.
We aggregate safe investment instruments in one place. So what that means for you is you don't need to have accounts with all your investment providers. So you're investing in fixed income, you're investing in agro-tech company, right? You don't need to have multiple accounts. With one account, you can access all the investment instruments. And secondly, these millennials don't have as much, or they think that they don't have as much money as they would need to invest. So what we did then was to communicate to them that with 5,000 naira, for example, you could invest in an agri-tech company that is telling you to invest 100,000.
The first runner-up won 3 million naira, and the second runner-up with 2 million naira. That's the NSE Xcathon, the ICT Innovative Ideas. And let's talk about Airtel Africa big earnings. Temple Ashaju, our business correspondent from the trading floor at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Temple, let's start with this. We have a bit more time later on the show. But raising the curtain is Airtel coming in with these very big numbers. I'm sure this is a big earnings splash, as it were, on our market street.
A great boating. Well, it is, because again, this is one particular company that actually contributed so much to the equity capitalization of the exchange when it got listed in July. We saw an addition of, I think, 1.36 trillion naira to the equity capitalization when Airtel got listed. So this really matters. I mean, the second company, a telecom company listed here is MTN. So now that Airtel is here and it's giving some 3 cents interim dividends to investors, what it means is investors may want to take advantage of that and see how they may buy more into Airtel, given the fact that the revenue is positive, as they reeled out those numbers earlier, some 11.4% growth in revenue. The EBITDA also looks very impressive on the underlying EBITDA, which came in at 10.9%. Profit before tax surge of 158%. And of course, we understand that all of this put together was able to help Airtel to deliver across its voice, its the mobile now, the data services, and of course the mobile money platform and services across Africa. We understand that the growth that we see in this particular numbers or earnings actually came from East Africa and mainly from Nigeria, where those are the two key hemispheres where they saw so much growth, and that's why they were able to deliver these numbers. But the concern that investors have around Airtel is the fact that there hasn't been so much liquidity around this particular company. The last appreciation that it had in the market was recorded on the 13th of September after it added some, after we saw a crossing of over 107,000 units of shares on the company. And that was on the 13th of September. But on the 16th of September, that was eroded by some investors who quickly took profit. Perhaps that was an investor that had participated during the IPO and just saw some kind of 10% appreciation and decided to actually move. So that's an area that is of concern to traders here on the floor. If you check out.
Yes, Tempo, just a quick one, because we'll have a bit more time later to drill down on some of these earnings. But a quick one, I don't want us to miss the MTN, which is the main rival to Airtel in the market and on the market street, about those this USSD fee charges. What do we know at the moment? Bring us up to speed quickly.
Yeah. So yesterday they actually issued a notice to the exchange telling Nigerians and of course the investing public that they actually understand what it means to transfer this end user cost for USSD billing to customers or end users that's for transactions that take place between banks and of course the company itself, the telecom giant here. They talked about the fact that they've actually engaged with the media, engaged with a lot of the stakeholders in the banking sector over time. Unfortunately, they had to, when the whole engagement sessions, exhausted, they had to find a way to pass the cost to end users. But they also said in that particular statement that they will not want to put the burden of these payments to individuals. They mentioned the fact that going by the guidelines of the central bank in terms of USSD billing, the billing to end users is supposed to be once. But there's been multiple sessions, and that was why they thought it fit to actually, they deemed it fit to bring in this cost. But now they're saying that they haven't really commenced. It hasn't kicked off at all, even though we know that banks have actually raised concerns, a lot of stakeholders have actually raised concerns about it as well, but they said that there should be more engagement between the banks, the regulators, and all other stakeholders involved, including the NCC and, of course, the fiscal authorities, to see how they can reach a common ground on this particular billing plan being proposed. Because at some point, no matter what it is, you really need to put out this cost because it covers the sessions.
Okay, it's a developing story. Tempo is a developing story. We'll see. We haven't heard the last of it anyway because you have a central bank here as a regulator. You have the NCC here as a regulator. Yeah, you have the Ministry of Communication here as industry regulator for telecommunications. So a lot of agencies, a number of agencies and companies are involved. So keep an eye on that. Sit tight on the floor.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you. But that was the end of the show to bring us up to speed how investors are trading this news and earnings today. But one big news, thank you, Temple Ashaju. One big news that is still making headlines today is Nigeria's better rating, 15 points higher in the World Bank Ease of Doing Business global ranking. We're now 131. We've ramped up rapidly since 2016 when the Nigerian government under the Buhari's administration began to ease doing business, making that a frontline policy of the administration. Let's drill down a little bit. We started yesterday with a curtain raiser. Let's look a little bit deeper into the numbers and what does it mean for professionals on Market Street. Yomi Olugbenro is a partner and West Africa tax lead at Deloitte Nigeria. He's joining us on this conversation from downtown Lagos via Skype. Yomi, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, boss, and good morning, viewers. It's nice to be on your show.
Yes, as big as this news is, folks who are professionals in your field and elsewhere were all over the social media yesterday and up till now talking about it and trying to dissect it. So what did you see in this report, if you put it in the highlight point for us?
Right. So, I mean, what we've seen is that over the past number of years, Nigeria had made some progress on making doing business in the country easy. We've moved up about 39 places between 2015 and the latest ranking that we had that put us 131 out of 190 economies that was surveyed by the World Bank.
Yes, but let's drill it down a little bit, and thank you for sending us a few of these infographics about our global ranking and what have you. So let's just drill down a little bit and look at it. When we talk about ease of doing business in the business of tax. You are the leader for tax business in West Africa and then including Nigeria for Deloitte Nigeria. So I'm sure when you see a report like this, you want to pick on that.
Well, that's correct. So paying taxes is one of the tax areas, one of the 10 areas rather, that's covered in the World Bank doing business. So things like how is it starting a business in Nigeria, dealing with construction permits, getting electricity, registering property, protecting minority interests, enforcing contract trading across borders. So 10 different areas. Countries are measured against standard metrics, how difficult it is, how convenient it is, how well known and simplified the processes are, interagency cooperation, transparency in the system, and all of that. So, what we saw in the latest ranking is that Nigeria recorded improvements in a number of areas. For example, starting a business got better. We moved up by about 15 places, dealing with construction permits and a whole lot of other areas. Maybe not quite happy with the fact that on the score of paying taxes, we actually slipped by 2 places. But I must say that this isn't because things became more difficult in Nigeria as far as paying taxes is concerned. I think it's a lot more influenced by the fact that other countries seems to be doing a lot more than we are doing because
Gbenro, very quickly, because we have about 3 minutes into this conversation, we want you to drill down on paying taxes and everything around that when you look at the key reforms and our 5-year performance when it comes to paying taxes in Nigeria. Folks are really interested in taxes because the government is increasing taxes in a number of areas and also expanding the bracket, the dragnet, as it were, in other areas.
Well, that's correct. So what we saw with the World Bank ranking, it's a status update of what we've done over the past number of years. It may not necessarily reflect what is currently going on, particularly in the current year and towards the last quarter of last year. This exercise was done last year, and it definitely will look backward to look at some of the reforms that have been tested by the markets. So I think the first thing to note is that the number of initiatives that are ongoing that are not reflected in this current rating. That probably explains why we moved down from 157 that we were last year to 159, in the current ranking. Around the continent, I think we're not doing as well as we should be doing because if you compare us to the rest of the continent, you realize that our score isn't as nice as it should be. So currently we are 159 in the world and we are 35th, in Africa as far as paying taxes is concerned. Country like Ghana, country like South Africa, country like Kenya, Mauritius, of course, which is Africa's best. All of these are ranking well ahead of us, but we must acknowledge the fact that seems to be on the right path, trying to put some of this reform. We just need a lot more pace. We need a lot more consistency so that we can actually move things better for the country.
Okay, a quick one and a final one, Yomi. If we add the current reforms that has taken place over the last 12 months or since the beginning of the year, if you add all of that, in your opinion, to what the World Bank survey and assessment is, do you think we'll rank much better than the current one?
Well, I doubt that because particularly some of the development over the last 1 year are touched on, increasing number of taxes. For example, we've had police fund levy introduced. We're hoping that the communications bill will probably get dropped along the line. But if we continue to increase the number of taxes, these are major point for the World Bank report. So the measure how many payments in a year, for example, how many hours is invested in complying with taxes. So the more we increase the number of taxes, the more the compliance increase. For example, in South Africa, this need to be in a year, and you spend just over 200 hours in a year. compared to Nigeria, where you make 48 different payments according to the report and spend about 340 hours in compliance. Ghana paid only 30, spent just about 200. So as much as I appreciate some of the reform of digitization, automation, and all of that, increasing the number of taxes do us any good on the ranking.
Okay. Yomi Olugbenro, it's a Friday. Let's leave it there for today. We'll have a more robust conversation in the days ahead around this and other stories around those issues. Thank you so much for coming through via Skype. Yomi Olugbenro, partner and West Africa tax lead at Deloitte, Nigeria. Do have a great weekend. Let's come back after the break. We're talking about FinTech Nigeria. It's a very big one next week. Let's talk about that before next week.